Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Welcome back. We've just been talking about the Democracy Spring demonstrations in Washington. A massive number of arrests, over 200 people arrested. They said there was going to be a lot of drama that couldn't be ignored, but it is being ignored by the mainstream media. Who's organizing this, Leanne?
Right. Well, now there are several groups that are behind this spontaneous revolution, this just civil disobedience that came out of nowhere. And it's been reported, this is coming out of Breitbart. So MoveOn.org, of course, has their tentacles in. They played a prominent role in organizing a lot of the anti-Trump activism. They helped shut down that rally there in Chicago. Another group is the Democratic Socialists of America, and their Chicago branch there, the DSA, actually helped to drive protesters to another Chicago Trump event. And the AFL-CIO, which is the nation's largest labor federation, also announced that they're all in behind Democracy Spring. And of course, one of their main objectives is to get big money out of politics. Meanwhile, they're funded by billionaires like George Soros, who are helping to activate their politicism.
And of course, this is vice chairman of the Open Society Foundation, Soros's Open Society Foundation, that is running Smartmatic.
Right.
This electronic voting machine company that began in Hugo Chavez's Venezuela to help him rig his elections. So we don't want to see that sort of thing. It's interesting that they don't have any issues about Bernie's Wyoming situation. They're not out there protesting that. They're actually trying to get arrested in Washington, I guess. But
right. Well, and that's why it's so important for young people that are involved in these things to understand how you're being used. You are being used as a useful idiot. They're having you go out to protest this. They say they want to claim the democracy that we were promised. They're holding this mass sit-in over the next 8 days so that they can get big money out of politics and ensure free and fair elections. Meanwhile, they're all championing the fact that the delegates are openly choosing who our presidents are going to be. They're saying your votes don't matter. They're completely canceling the voting there in Colorado.
It's totally naive to think that you're going to get big money out of politics when you got big power in government. The socialists want the government to make all the decisions in our lives. They want a big, powerful pig government that is centralized, and they don't realize that that's going to lead to corruption. What they've done is they've created this massive black hole that sucks in money and power and corruption. That's what's behind these so-called partnerships. And that's why the Democrats and Republicans are partnering with each other. The same way that we see these multinational corporations partnering to take down our sovereignty, to control our economy from abroad. It's the corruption, stupid. You're not going to, you can rail against crony capitalism, and yeah, it's a problem, but you can't have crony capitalism unless you first got crony socialism, because these people are going to put their own people in, and when you allow the government to have that much say in your life, when you allow them to have that much say in the economy, then you guarantee that you're going to have a corrupt organization like we currently have in Washington. It's the problem is the concentration of power, and that's what the founders tried to set up in the Constitution. That's original design, which has now been thwarted, was to divide the power between the central government and the states and the people, and then to further subdivide the central government. So that was what they were really concerned about. And that's what we have seen has become the cancer, the black hole that is sucking everything up.
Right. And just like with Ferguson, how the entire country, if not the world, was rallying around, eyes were wide open to police, the militarization of the police. A lot of people wanted to, but then it was like divide and conquer. And that's exactly what's happening now with Democracy Spring, because they so do not want to see Trump as president. They don't care that the election is totally rigged. Meanwhile, they're ignoring the fact that it's also being rigged on the Democratic side there. Bernie Sanders is obviously bringing out the people, but the media keeps saying he has no chance. Hillary's smoking him on the delegates. There's no way. And to just kind of placate you so that when the election is given to Hillary Clinton, then you're just like, oh, well, that's how we are every single election cycle. Oh, well, and it's time for the oh, well to stop. But it's not going to if we can't work together.
Not when you have the socialists who are running this. It's the socialists who try to divide and conquer everybody by racial groups, by economic class.
Right.
We saw that happen with the Bundy Ranch, as I mentioned earlier. There you had a situation that was very much like Ferguson. Nobody at that point had been killed yet. But you had the government abusing the neighbors there, and you had government or neighbor standing with neighbor against the government, and yet they spun that as a bunch of welfare ranchers and a bunch of white people who don't have any right to be upset because they're privileged. They just shut all that down, and instead what you need to have is you need to have the people unifying, because they're doing the same thing to the people out in the rural areas that they're doing to the people in the inner cities. They're doing the same things to the blacks that they're doing to the whites. We all need to come together on this. Instead, it's the socialists who will always subdivide everybody. It's the socialists who will concentrate power and then complain about the corruption.
Right. Well, I mean, even if you want to just see how your movement is being orchestrated and controlled, where was Black Lives Matter when the whole Flint crisis was exposed?
Yeah.
With the poisoning of the water there in a majority black community and total government corruption, I didn't see Black Lives Matter there. No, they were too busy rallying just at some particular thing that could spark some fury. I mean, it's so controlled. It's
absolutely. Let's talk about another method of exposure, something else that got exposed this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Webcam fraud, okay?
Yeah.
And of course, a lot of people have been getting exposed by their webcams, as Alex Jones pointed out this weekend when he stripped off his shirt to show people, hey, this is what the FBI wants to see. He's been telling people about this for decades. It's been dismissed as you're a paranoid conspiracy theorist, but now that NPR reports that the FBI director does the same thing on his camera. And I thought it was interesting, Leanne, because what he said was, well, I saw people that were smarter than me were doing this, and I saw it on the news. I thought, well, that's interesting because it's being reported by NPR, and I'm sure he didn't see NPR talking about how the government was spying on you with your webcam.
Right.
So he may be a listener of ours. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm sure he's watching us one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, we've been saying put some tape over your webcam forever. And I think it's really funny, you know, this is the FBI director admitting, oh, well, I put tape over my webcam and you should too. But he's also saying that, you know, it's the public needs to demand how the government is gathering information on them. They need to be aware. It needs to be open and honest. And meanwhile, he's also telling Apple that we can't have any encryption. And no, by the way, we're not going to tell you how we broke into the terrorist phone there with San Bernardino. But
because
now,
it's a matter of patriotism.
Yes,
and of course, one of the people who works for the ACLU tweeted out, he said, Mr. Comey, patriots don't cover their webcams.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a perfect comeback to this. Because, you know, what are you doing wrong that you need that kind of privacy? I mean, you know, what are you afraid of? I mean, we're only looking, as Eric Schmidt of Google said, you know, if you're doing nothing wrong, you got nothing to be afraid of. You ought to let anybody watch you like a creepy voyeur or like a big brother government.
Right.
Shouldn't have a problem with it.
I don't do anything creepy in front of my camera, but for me, I just think, I don't know if you've ever opened up your phone accidentally with the flip camera in reverse, and it's just like, whoa, hideous. So I don't want someone spying on me through my...
Well, what's creepy about it is the voyeurism, and what's creepy about it and what's wrong about it is not you, but a government that does this without a warrant, without a reason to do it, without suspecting you as a criminal, treating everyone as if they were criminals and acting as if they had a warrant when they don't, in violation of the Constitution they swore to. That's what's really creepy about this.
And now, obviously, we've been reporting about this for a very long time. Alex has been called crazy for this, but this is out of 2013, reported by the Daily Mail. The FBI can spy on you through your webcam without triggering the indicator light and has had the technology for several years. But James Comey says he just found out about it from the news.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the case.
Yeah.
And of course, it's interesting too to see that in defending Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama came out and said, talking about her emails, he said, well, there's classified and then there's classified. It's kind of like, depends on what the meaning of is, right? Did not have text with that woman, okay? He says, well, what I know, because I handle a lot of classified information, okay, he's president after all, right, is that it's classified, and then there's classified. There's stuff that's really top secret, and then there's stuff that's being presented to the president or the secretary of state. You might not want on the transom or going out over the wire, but it's basically stuff that you could get in open source. Well, not unless your open source is Guccifer, okay? Right. The private conversations between the secretary of state and other heads of state are born classified. They don't have to be marked classified, and that's the prevarication that she's been doing. And of course, saying this weekend that this is just a security review. You don't grant immunity to people for a security review, okay? Right. That's what the FBI is doing, and Judge Napolitano has pointed out. They go to the lowest level people, grant them immunity, go to the mid-level people, start interviewing them, and then they go to the target of the investigation at the top. This is not a security review. You don't need to grant immunity for a security review.
Yeah, well, and just witnessing what's going on with the election, it's no wonder why she just laughs in our face and says, I'll never be in handcuffs.
Yeah, then that brings us back to where these guys are, the RICO people. Stay with us.
In the first decade of my battle against the globalist, I gained close to 100 pounds. It's no secret. Everyone could see it on television and the films I produced. I completely focused on what was happening geopolitically and stopped working out almost entirely. Now in the last 4 years, with help from the products at InfoWarsLife.com, I have lost 80 plus pounds of that weight. And as many viewers have noted, the weight loss has accelerated in the last year. The big turning point was when I did my first liver cleanse. My friends, I have gotten a lot of dramatic results with the incredible products at InfoWarsLife.com, but the most dramatic, hands down, and the reviewers agree with me, is the Ultimate Cleanse Pack and the results you will see. Because of time, I won't go into much detail, but visit InfoWarsLife.com to see the dramatic results for yourself. The informational videos are not for the faint of heart. Again, just go to InfoWarsLife.com for yourself, go to the Liver Cleanse Deep Cleanse page, and see the facts. It is game-changing. There are so many other benefits to taking action with the Ultimate Cleanse Pack, but one of them is a lot of my family and a lot of the office are now doing the cleanse with me, and so I'm challenging you, the fellow InfoWarriors, to take action with me and do the cleanse as well. Just go to InfoWarsLife.com for yourself, go to the Liver Cleanse Deep Cleanse page, and see the facts. It is game-changing.